Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my very handsome partners in crime, Anthony Prohaska and Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing, baby?
That's goddamn right. It's a good evening, Gregory. You're goddamn right.
Anthony, welcome back. What a way to welcome you back to America.
I'm super happy we won because, honestly, I texted you this before it started. If we had lost, I would have blamed myself as the jinx, and I would have been out. So I'm super glad we won so I can stay on the post game. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm going to post right now that thankfully the Bills won, so Anthony was allowed back on the show. Come watch him.
I was sweating it out.
So welcome back. Obviously today we are here to talk about an outstanding Buffalo Bills victory, and it's, there were moments we're going to get to, but, anytime you're in a situation where the Bills win 43-21, each of the touchdowns for Washington were either kind of fluky or garbage time at the end. This was a dominant win, even beyond what the 22-point differential ended up being. But Aaron, just, what were your initial thoughts on the overall win today? We'll get to the one guy coming up here in a little bit, but it certainly was reassuring for me.
Yeah, I think it revolves around the one guy we're going to talk about here. And the sign behind me, regression never looked so good. A lot of worry week one. And I think now over the last 2 weeks with two blowout victories against, in my opinion, not great teams, but playoff caliber NFL teams. You have two blowout victories where the team looked good in all three phases at different times. And in this game, at least on the offensive side of the ball and the defense side of the ball, looked really crisp and dominant from front to side. You said it, a couple fluky touchdowns inflated Washington's score here, but otherwise a totally dominant game for Buffalo. So the Uncle Jumbos taste a little extra sweeter today.
Absolutely. Anthony, when looking at a game like this, that obviously probably got our heart rates up a little bit higher than it should in some moments, what were some of your overall takeaways when you now have a chance to step back?
I think similar to Aaron's, it's the dominance of it. I think if we sit back and look into the context of it, like I know what the final score was being 43-21, but a late score that didn't really matter, a fluky special teams play that led to a really good play from Heineke, a really good play from Gibson for a touchdown. Like I don't think, granted this game, the final score wasn't close, but this game was a lot less close than the final score indicated, and that's two back-to-back weeks where the Bills have had some, against Miami, they have the shutout win, but they weren't really clicking and firing on all cylinders. This game, they have some, big plays that they give up and some mistakes that they made, but even despite that, they ran away with both games. It's nice to see them starting to build some momentum, and again, I don't think the final score was true. I think people see and be like, 43-21, but it felt more like almost 43-0. And the Bills tore up a very good defense. They made a really good defensive front look almost inept, and Josh Allen's navigation of the pocket was tremendous. That was also big for me too, the way we were able to mitigate the presence of that front four for Washington.
Yeah, before we dive into the positional specific areas, I was just kind of going through in our prep. Man, what a dominant performance overall. Almost 500 total yards.
That third down efficiency, look at that.
9 of 15, over 50% on third down, holding them, to some late garbage ones to get some first downs, but 29 first downs. 29 first downs is insane.
Yeah.
Both 359 in passing, 122 in rushing. Just a really genuinely dominant performance. 3 turnovers to 0. Just that's all you could ask for. And obviously, we kind of hinted at it at the beginning. This was the game that we wanted from Josh Allen. This was the game that everybody expected, coming in off of last year. This was 2020 Josh Allen. He ends up 32 of 43 for 358 yards, an 8.3 average, 74% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 5 total touchdowns, 129 quarterback rating. He checked every single box. And we talked about it in the preview show. We wanted to see, don't get cute, stay in the 11 personnel, keep a running back and tight end to chip, take the easy short profits, don't have to take your deep shots, wait for them to press up because you're going short early, and then hit him deep when you can. Josh Allen checked every box. He did each of those things. He was patient. He stayed patient throughout the game, but was then strategic when he took his deep shots. He put balls in position where only his guy could get it. That touchdown to Dawson Knox was half throwaway, half touchdown pass. He was just putting it in a spot where, hey, either Dawson Knox makes a fantastic catch or we live to fight another day. I was just really reassured and encouraged that with a hyped crowd at home, with all the adrenaline that everybody worried about, that, hey, let's settle down on the sugar high Josh. Let's settle down on where those things are at. And I was really, really reassured. So, what were your guys' thoughts, Aaron, on anything from Alan and from this kind of day for what maybe people were getting some of that ammo to talk about regression in your amazing sign?
Yeah, totally. So I agree with pretty much all you said. All I'd add is, and Ant sort of touched on it, was the calm in the pocket. Early on, the offensive line, which we'll talk about too, had a little bit of struggles, but Josh's calm and at that athleticism to step up and make those plays and avoid the sack, avoid being touched really at all in this game, was really helped out the offensive line. And for him to stay calm, keep his eyes down the field and take the short stuff over the middle. You saw Beasley really eating in this game, and him really feeding that was just awesome. And for him to have that calm measure about him where he's using that athleticism to manipulate the pocket, extend plays, roll to his right, which we heard he couldn't do all of a sudden here in 2020. So being able to knock off all those narratives and get back to what you said, a 2020 offense of multiple long sustained drives, 75-yard drives, a 93-yard drive, multiple play drives, putting them together for touchdowns. That's the offense we're used to seeing, and good to see him continue to spread the ball around, right? Everybody got a little bit to something. So great to see Josh back. Couldn't have come at a better time, and hopefully they can build off of this. And as you like to say, little blocks of positivity. This was a pretty big block today of positivity.
Anthony, what were maybe something that was the biggest standout for you for Josh Allen today?
I mentioned it a bit in the lead-in, and then Aaron touched on it here. It was really just the pocket presence and the awareness in the pocket, the side steps, the movements up, the movements back at the right time. I thought the offensive line played good enough, but there were times when just one person would get beat, and they might get beat bad, which is fair because Washington's front four is stellar, and Josh would just calmly and with poise just sidestep, or he would just step up, continue to keep his eyes downfield. That was such a massive thing. It led to, several big plays for him out of the pocket, but just his ability, especially when you tie it in with the sugar high aspect, Greg, that you mentioned that so many people have been talking about. That was the literal antithesis of sugar high Josh Allen. Just calm, poise, sidestepping, stepping up, making throws, changing arm angles, keeping his eyes downfield. And what's up? That is my cousin.
Anthony is my cousin Tony over here.
I like it. Yeah, he just looked calm, cool, collected, in addition to the final stats and everything that we saw. But it was really just the pocket poise and movement in the pocket, which I think is something, we talk about his athleticism, but I don't think we've ever really talked about his movement in the pocket and athleticism in the pocket. And he showed technique and athleticism in there today, and it was huge.
Yeah, the one play that stuck out to me was that play with Cam Curl coming off the edge, safety blitz, right off of the back in a blindside hit to Josh. He stood tall in the pocket, made a nice first down pickup to Cole Beasley on what ended up being what I have a feeling will be many of our drive of the game. Is that when that comes up, it's time for our friends at West Herr. But that really stood out to me, and I was really encouraged. Aaron, how about this running game today?
I was super encouraged by this because I don't know what it ended up being here balance-wise, but it seemed like at times when they had these nice drives, obviously they got most of the work done through the air, which is what we want to see, but they still had balance on some of these drives. And I thought Zach Moss had himself a day. It doesn't jump off the table here. Statistically, where was he at with 13 carries, 60 yards, 4.6 per. But his style of running is really maturing to the NFL level, in my opinion. He runs super vicious.
With taking those 3 kneel downs out, you're not going to believe it. It was 39-61. It was exactly the split. Almost 60-40 right there.
That's where we need to be, right? 60-40. That's my spot. So cheers to that. A little more jumbos goes down my throat. But the style is that Zach Moss runs is what really stands out to me in this game, where he's vicious. He runs like he wants to kill every single person he comes in contact with. But then in a number of runs, you saw him change that gear and show some patience and a little bit of slipperiness, and that type of balance that he offers as a running back, I think he's going to continue to grow. We forget that his development was cut short with an injury last year. He was coming on a little bit towards the end of the year. You saw steps of improving, getting better. I liked what I saw this summer from him, and he continues to build on that each and every week now. And if he can provide that, man, I think that big playability that Singletary has, we didn't have that in this game, but that the balance of these two guys, if you stay at that 60-40 range, I think this is the path to success for this team. Anybody else got anything on the running backs before we move?
No, I
you hit it.
I liked it.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it. We don't need big games, right? We just need more efficiency. So, Anthony, what about wide receivers, tight ends? What do you got for me there?
Oh, just I will start. We said wide receivers, tight ends, but let's flip it. Dawson Knox. What a day for Mr. Knox. Big catch.
Tight end one, I think.
Yes, tight end one. Some good routes that were run, some nice crisp catches. That touchdown, I don't want to just highlight, one particular play, but that touchdown is a play that we've seen from so many top tight ends in the NFL for so long, going back to when Jimmy Graham kind of revolutionized that position a little bit in today's day and age. That back shoulder throw, and for him to get extension, full hands on that ball, not even a body catch, just a really confident play tied to the athleticism that we've seen. Yeah, that comment is spot on. So excited from what I'm seeing from Knox. We've talked about it. Like, this isn't an offense that needs to rely on the tight end, but if we can get production from the tight end, how much more dangerous this offense is. It's the wide receiver centric, but if that tight end can be a lethal piece, this offense is tremendously effective. And Washington's defense can be taken advantage of in the middle of the field and with those matchups with the tight end. And Knox capitalized on it today. 4 catches, 49 yards on 5 targets and a touchdown. Really nice job from him. And it went hand in hand with what we saw from the wide receivers. Hell of a day from Cole Beasley, tying a career high with 11 catches on 13 targets. And he had a typical Cole Beasley game, 11 catches for 98 yards, living in the short to intermediate, taking advantage of, option routes.
But a huge safety
coverage
net so many times.
Yeah. And moving chains. Just moving the chains.
Moving chains. He was a guy on a lot of those plays where Allen stepped up or moved over in the pocket and found some space and just dumped it off to Cole for 5 to 9 yards and just making plays. And then Emmanuel Sanders, Manny Sands showing up big, 2 touchdowns. I loved the second touchdown. I really don't know which I loved more. The first one was great ball placement from Josh and a great hands catch, tough catch for Manny, but he gets down, makes a perfect hands catch. The second one is just what we've known from him, which is pure route running. He gets off the line, fakes inside, pops back, catches it, dabs his feet before he goes out of bounds, gives the ball to the kid. And honestly, Stephon Diggs kind of had like the 3rd best day, maybe, out of the receivers. A quiet 6 catches for 62 yards on 10 targets, but was able to take advantage on key downs, find separation underneath. A really quality performance. This is with what we saw from the wide receivers and tight ends, I think this is, I don't want to say peak, but this is what the offense can look like when everything is clicking. Ball dispersal, multiple guys putting up big days in multiple scenarios. And how do you defend that if you're a defense? It's hard.
Yeah, I love Aaron could have talked about Cole Beasley as part of the running game. Like he was just there as that quick out option route over and over and over again. And that was, what you need to do against a team with the front 4 as strong as what these guys are. So I thought that was a great call out. And I copped to it online. I'm as big of a Dawson Knox hater as there exists in the Bills content creation environment. That catch was phenomenal. And then, the other one, I even said that was not a drop. Like, it would have been a nice catch.
Bad
It could have come back.
Yeah.
That was on Josh kind of putting it behind him and would have been a really tough catch. And then he comes back with another good one later on. So, overall, 4 for 49 and a touchdown is a really great game for him. And the gravity that Stephon Diggs has on the field also impacts why Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley were able to have the game they did. It's not, he was statistically the 3rd best receiver today, but those guys profit because of him and how much attention.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I want to add is sort of to what Greg said is I predicted that Dawson Knox would make people shut up this summer about him. It took a little longer to make people shut up, but I think we got a 3-game sample now. We're working towards a month of football sample of this guy being the tight end 1 for this offense. He's not going to be the best tight end in the NFL, but I think the people that were, Hollister was better and this guy's a scrub, he doesn't belong being tight end. I think that talk has to be over. I think he's putting together a nice enough season that he's a reliable tight end 1 for this type of offense.
I just hope we don't see a game next week where he drops 2 and everybody's like, see, that's what he's always been.
They can come back in my mentions. I'll go to war.
Great game from him and great game from the receivers. And now we move on to the offensive line, who had a pretty decent day. And Greg, what were your thoughts on the offensive line?
Washington didn't sack Josh Allen, and the only time they touched him was a safety blitz off the edge in the 4th quarter. I don't know what else you can ask. It was not perfect. Josh did have to scramble a couple times, But I mean, he just didn't get touched when he wasn't scrambling, when he wasn't rolling out trying to run with the ball. I don't know that they ever got all that close to him. And there were a couple times where he had to maneuver the pocket, and you had some plays where, I expect Cody Ford or John Feliciano to need to, take a Deron Payne or a Jonathan Allen with their momentum through the backfield. Like, they're going to penetrate like that, ride with them and take them where they want to go and just stay out of the way. And there was a couple times where you saw that flash to go by Josh Allen's face, and to then have him, again, step up in the pocket, maneuver, roll out, be able to make space. All those things came together. If anybody hasn't seen it, what Nick is talking about here below, look at Eric Turner's feed, and our man Low Buffalo Ceilings also chimed in with another video clip. Spencer Brown had a couple dominant run blocking reps where he just mauled some dudes. So he's earning some more playing time here. I like him as a sixth offensive lineman, and getting him some live reps. But I thought today was a really strong day from the offensive line, especially Aaron and I, we talked about it when we had Josh on Wednesday night. This was a test to, after what we saw, what Pittsburgh's front did to the Bills' offensive line. This was the next best defensive line they're going to see until we get to that Tampa Bay game, and we needed to see them step up. And it wasn't perfect, but they came up and really stepped out well. 0 sacks and not that many quarterback pressures or targets. We'll see where that nets out to when we see it, but most of those were on scrambles. So I thought it was a really strong performance.
I just want to add, I think it was a good performance. I do think Josh bailed him out a number of times, especially early on. So I do want to watch it back again. But I will say, after talking Wednesday and really looking into the pressure stats and watching Washington, I was not sleeping well last night about what I thought this interior offensive line was going to look like. And they shut me up. They really did. And hats off to Cody Ford and Feliciano. I knew Morris would be fine for shutting me up, at least for a little while. And I think even if we look at the tape and there is some bad, like you said, Josh didn't get really touched. Even with him manipulating the pocket, it wasn't that bad. So good on them for shutting me up for at least a week here.
Yeah. It's hard to do. As we go into it, Anthony, we'll kind of lead off with you. I have a feeling
I got to fix this graphic.
We'll work with it. We'll work with it. As we get ready for it here, it's kind of fun because I don't know for sure where you guys are going to go, because I think there were like 3 or 4 nominees for the drive of the game. But Anthony, we'll let you lead off. For our friends over at West Herr, the largest automotive group in New York State, 17 dealerships all over New York and all over the Western New York area. Make sure you reach out to them for any of your automotive needs. What was your West Herr drive of the game?
For me, it's going to be that drive that started the second half for the Bills. So it's 27-14, Buffalo at that point. Washington gets the ball first. They go 4 plays, 15 yards. They punt it away, and the Bills respond with a 17-play, 93-yard, 8 minutes and 17 seconds worth of a touchdown drive for the Bills to make it 33-14. They go for 2. They don't get it. I just thought that was such a tremendous answer from this team. They had a really dominant first half. A couple fluky things go sideways, and all of a sudden it's 21-14. But then they end the first half really strong, come out, make Washington punt, and then I tweeted it out once the game ended. I thought that was a kind of a soul-crushing, will-breaking type of drive, death by 1,000 cuts. The amount of plays, the yardage, Josh making every right read, whether it was in the short to intermediate, taking advantage of what they gave him and just cut him up. And that's a hard thing for Washington. You get the ball, you get a chance, you punt it away, and then the Bills just go at you like that and just snatch your soul. That to me was the drive of the game. They're huge.
Yeah, I got to agree in terms of that's, I think, the runaway drive of the game. The biggest thing that stands out to me on that drive is big fan of toxic differential plays. Bills had a big toxic differential day. They didn't on this drive. And usually when you have a 90-something plus yard drive, you have a 20-yard big splash play mixed in there somewhere. But 0 toxic plays, 17 plays. That's methodical. That's surgical. And they had balance on this drive, right? Like Moss got going for a couple of plays too. It wasn't just that Josh surgically moving down the field. It was a mix of stuff. So definitely the best drive so far, the offense, in my opinion. But I will say a runner-up, a sneaky runner-up for me is what you talked about. Washington had a chance to double dip in this game when it was just a 10-point lead for the Bills heading into the half. And Taryn had that interception that was called back, and then the Bills still stood and forced a punt. Did not allow the double dip to happen. Washington had momentum at this point in the game after those fluky plays. That stop, in my mind, it wasn't the sexiest defensive drive or anything like that, but I think it was one of the more important ones. You don't allow them to come out and double dip and get that a one-possession game, and it totally changes the momentum of the game. At halftime, you're back to even. And so those things are important to me. So that's a big runner-up for me.
My honorable mention, I agree. I also had the 17-play 93-yarder. I will say that 5-play field goal drive to end the half was the most perfect execution that I've seen as a Bills fan, maybe besides that end-of-half drive in the Colts playoff game. Yep. Like, it was that kind of perfect.
And aggressive by McDermott.
26 seconds has been a punt, has been a kneel down for McDermott. 26 seconds is not enough for the standard 2-minute drive, especially after a touchback. So you're talking about a touchback from a punt. So you're starting at the 20. It's not even the 25 like a kickoff touchback. Right. The punt touchback is at the 20. So you're talking 80-yard field. You need at least 45, 50 yards to make it worthwhile. 26 seconds is asking a lot. There have been plenty of times where that was a kneel down for Sean McDermott, and I think for him to show the aggression, we had 3 timeouts. The offense, he could tell they needed a little boost after those fluky plays. They went 4 plays, absolute perfection, 4 straight completions, 13, 22, 11, 5, straight down the field, used the timeouts, didn't even need
use the sideline
on the one. They used the sideline for all of them except for Beasley. And then, Bass makes it count with the 48-yard field goal. That was absolute perfection, aggression from Sean McDermott, and mentally a big difference going to, a 13-point lead going into the half and retaking momentum when they had a chance to do that. So
not only not having the double dip, but getting points out of it. Like, that's a huge change. And big on Bass, if you watch that back, those posts on the field goal were just on the goalpost were just swaying for 48. A 48-yard kick's not the biggest kick, but in those kind of conditions, we saw the ball moving around. Big on Bass to put it through with that leg.
So, Aaron, as we switch over to the defensive side of the ball, what did you think of this defensive front against a solid Washington offensive line?
Yeah, you know what? Again, I think Washington also did a pretty good job of keeping Taylor Heineke protected for the most part, and he's a slippery little bastard back there, quite slippery. And I think he probably had more rushing lanes than he ended up taking in this game. But I think they did a good job of when they weren't super aggressive in a lot of the sets, but they sort of stayed in front of him and tried to at least make it seem like he didn't have those rushing lanes to escape when he wanted to. And that was an important part. And I think coverage, which we'll get to, helped out this line in a number of times today. But you still saw pressures. Epinesa had very close to a big sack on Heineke, and he slipped out of that. A couple pressures around the edge. I think the biggest shock to me about this line in general is not so much the play of Greg Rousseau as a pass rusher, but you saw, again, a number of plays where he really stood his ground as a run defender. And that shocks me. And I think that's why he's on the field for as much as he's on the field as a young rookie, because I think they knew he could rush the passer and be effective in the pass game. But for him to be on the field in early downs tells you that they feel like he's responsible enough in the run game to be a problem and to be on the field and not be somebody that's the weak link along this line. So I like what I'm seeing there. But nothing stood out to me as far as the last 2 weeks of dominant pressures and these guys were dominating the game. I think it was more gap integrity, responsibility, doing your job, and keeping everything in front of you and not allowing Heineke to just sort of pick lanes and beat you with his legs. Anybody else?
Our friend Steve Noble making the comment there. He's always out representing Bills Mafia at these barbecue competitions. Remember to take in your Uncle Jumbo's responsibly.
Yes.
Just because there's a high toxic differential off the field, you still want to have a responsible toxic differential in the house with your Uncle Jumbo. So, just something to keep in mind.
Good point.
Anthony, anything else on the defensive line?
No, I thought Aaron was spot on with it, and I love the point about the run game aspect. I think for me, the defensive line in this game, it was less about the pass rush pressure they generated and more just the responsibility in the run game for a lot of it. Also, shout out to Vernon Butler, who stood pretty strong at the point of attack on a lot of plays. And Rousseau,
how about this Bills defense on 4th and shorts this year?
Yes. Just showing up,
and I'm not counting them as toxic differential plays, but I mark them
Oh,
and we talk about them as toxic differential plays because that's the turnover, and that's all on the defensive line.
But I mark them.
Well, I want to shout out Star too, because he blew up that fourth down play. The reason that got converted, and Matt Milano will rightfully get credit for a fantastic cleanup.
Yes,
Star Lotulelei blew that play up. He also had the only sack on the day. Maybe not the only one. Might have got another one later on in the day. But had the sack pressure and Heineke out to the sideline. He's moving so much better. And Eric brought this up in some comments on the Slack channel. But he has somehow gotten quicker and more athletic without losing the power and his ability to hold at the point of attack. And like, people talk about the fact that he's still big. He's not a small guy, but he holds like at 305 pounds, like a lot of those 330, 340 pound defensive tackles.
It's all in his hips.
Hold the point of attack. He has so much power in his
power pack.
It's all in the hips. And it's something that, just deserve credit today. He is playing really, really well, legitimately well.
Remember when people thought he was going to be out of shape, and he's actually in better shape?
Remember whenever we said how terrible he was and that he was useless because he doesn't get sacks?
Right.
Anthony, how about the guys of the linebacker corps?
Ooh, good day from the linebackers. Milano for me was standout number one. Yeah, again, just a lot of solid plays in the run game and making tackles, but just coverage, being the guy who's smart and responsible in coverage. I feel like he's starting to all of a sudden catch on a little bit in the national media. We saw some tweets this week of, prominent NFL reporters and analysts talking about how good he is or how he's underappreciated. And
dude, that coverage on Adam Humphries. Adam Humphries is a Cole Beasley type wide receiver.
That's the one I was going to call out. So Humphries is coming towards him. Milano's watching him while also keeping his eyes on Heineke, and he basically just runs the route for Humphries. He waits till Humphries sits, and as Humphries pops out, he explodes with it, bats the ball down, and breaks it up. Just a really great game from him. And Tremaine Edmunds, he had a couple plays where he didn't quite make the tackle and, gave up some things here and there, but I thought he was really responsible in coverage. Again, a guy who continues to seems like he's connecting more and more the mental side with the physical side.
Multiple
and just being,
tip passes.
Yes, just being basically a pain in the butt in the middle of the field for opposing quarterbacks. This was a game where Logan Thomas is a very good tight end, and he can make things happen over the middle. And for the most part, the Bills mitigated what he was able to do prior to that touchdown catch he had at the end, which was just a great play by him. And again, it was on Micah Hyde.
Phenomenal physical performance. Yep. That's hard to.
Exactly. That's just a great play by him. Shout out to him. He only had 3 catches for 40 yards prior to that catch there. The Bills covered him well, and I think a lot of that comes from Tremaine. Edmunds had a couple nice cleanup plays. I thought it was a good day for the Bills linebackers. Again, not anything that's mark this guy down as the world-changing all-pro right now, but definitely more positive, encouraging signs that we're seeing. And I don't think this defense continues to put together like back-to-back performances like these if that linebacking core is not solid and responsible and consistent in their play. And it was another really strong game from them. And what do you guys got anything to add to that?
I know I gave the one play, and I said it's hard to tackle J.D. McKissick in the open field, but when you're squared up and you are like, it's one thing we give Tremaine Edmunds a hard time about, hey, you can't expect perfection all the time, perfect reads, things like that. You're supposed to be the big physical specimen. When you're squared up, ready to go, not caught out of position on a third down, like, I know it's a tough call. Like, that's a lot to ask on a small, quick, wiggly guy. I need you to make that play. I need you to make that tackle. I like Tremaine Edmunds' day. Besides that, I don't put anybody's fault per se on the big Antonio Gibson screenplay. It was a great play call. They caught us being aggressive on a blitz. They dumped it over top. I'm sure Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Matt Milano, and Tremaine Edmunds all would like that play back. I don't. We'll watch the whole
defensive line too.
Yeah,
Vernon Butler almost ran that play down.
Vernon Butler and Justin Zimmer almost chased him down. But that's just and Antonio Gibson is a phenomenal athlete. Yes. Beyond that, I thought in coverage, Edmunds was really good. He's going to get dogged for those couple plays on the screen and that play by McKissick, because
the Terry McLaurin one,
mind.
The McLaurin one towards the end, that 35-yarder with him and Poyer collided.
Reminded me kind of some of the Kelsey stuff before, where he's floating in coverage, and as soon as he moves, the quarterback rifles it by him. But, I thought it was a very good play. And again, Milano, somebody commented here that he's not going to get snubbed this year. He absolutely is going to get the credit he deserves this year. He is. I predict he will get a Pro Bowl nomination. And that contract is looking better and better by the day.
Every day. Yep.
Oh, 1,000%. Aaron, what do you got? Anything for the linebackers?
Nah, that's it, man. You guys hit on everything I need to say.
Run
Well
with
done.
DBU.
Greg, tell us about the secondary. I guess they were, kind of okay, maybe a little bit.
I feel bad because you almost want to grade on a curve when it's a guy like Taylor Heineke, but holy crap, were they reading him like a book? So obviously Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer both jump routes to get credit for it. Taron Johnson had an interception that didn't count, then another near interception 2 plays later that almost counted. They got hands up all the time. He is a good athlete. He was able to scramble around there, but I thought that they actually came up in run support pretty well. And when you have guys as athletic as they are, De'Ami Brown getting out there, Logan Thomas has showed what he can do on that touchdown play, and Terry McLaurin is just an elite receiver. To be able to hold them to what you did, you take that screenplay out of there, you're talking about 140 total yards, 139 total passing yards, besides that one fluky play. They really dominated this game and kept everything under control. I even thought some of the penalty calls were a little iffy when they did get called. So overall, a fantastic day. And I love seeing guys that we talk about, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, trying to get them attention, but turnover plays are where you get a lot of those highlight reels and other fans outside of Buffalo get to know them. So I know a lot of your favorites are here, Aaron. Any thoughts on the DB plays?
Yeah, I think it was good. It's hard to see in the broadcast. That's something we can't fully judge right until the All-22, but you saw Heineke having time, and the Bills defensive line started, like we said earlier, staying in front, and it didn't seem like anything was open for him downfield. And so that tells me that they all did their job across the board. There was a lot of talk on the radio here in Buffalo today about Levi Wallace getting picked on by Mike Gesicki, and that's the path to beat this defense. I don't even know that Levi was targeted today. He might have been targeted.
He had that one downfield, and he was in picture perfect coverage.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah,
absolute perfect coverage.
Yes, and so really impressive day when you don't hear about Levi Wallace or Taron Johnson, getting a majority of reps, getting 5-6 targets, either one of them. So that tells me that this team in the back seven was doing their job. And so I'm really excited to watch the All-22 on this, because I do think before he got hurt, Levi was trending in a better direction than even I think that his style of play is. And Taron Johnson's just playing right there next tier to Matt Milano in terms of the best players on this defense right now in this 2020 season. And his ability to even though there was penalties on that play, get that interception, like you said, a couple plays later, get another nice pass breakup, just being around the ball at the point of attacks. Really nice to see from a developing player on this defense.
So as we switch in, and I have to move my seat up so that I can take a sip of my Uncle Jumbo's, the player spotlight, we've used this in the past. I'm going to lead off with what I thought was the responsible choice of the day. And when you enjoy Uncle Jumbo's, you want to enjoy it responsibly. I thought Sean McDermott's decision at the end of the first half was as much as you could ask for, and that just instilling that confidence when hey, your team's kind of controlled this, but we let the other team back in, and you don't want to let anything fall back down. I just wanted to spotlight that call. I thought that it really helped inject the confidence the team needed to run away with the game they should have controlled, that they truly dominated from start to finish, and that you're letting up some of those fluky plays and some of the garbage time towards the end here. But I really wanted to spotlight that. Anthony, what was your player you wanted to spotlight today?
Oh, I wanted to spotlight that aspect that you just did, but nice. I'll back off from that. I'm going to stay in the secondary just because the secondary collectively had a strong game. But that Tre'Davious White punch out of Logan Thomas, I just thought it was not that was the play that won the game or Tre'Davious White had the best game, but I thought that we saw Poyer do something very similar against Indianapolis in the playoffs that should have been called a fumble, and it wasn't. I wanted to highlight that play from Trey because I think it's just indicative of how smart and savvy this defense is, and especially how smart and savvy this secondary is. They are coached to do this. Every once in a while, you could see, like, Charles Tillman used to do it all the time for the Bears, and people would talk about how great of a play it was from Charles Tillman, but the defense was coached to think like that, and that's how the Bills are coached to think. Once is an accident, twice is a trend. We've seen it now show up multiple times in games, and I just love seeing that kind of stuff, to have that savviness and that awareness and that headiness to make those type of plays. Again, that was a great play from Logan Thomas, makes a great catch, breaks a tackle, gets the ball to midfield, and just to have that awareness And that's another momentum killing thing for your opponent, to make a big play down 14 and then, we just made a big play. One of our captains and our guys just lost the ball. Yeah, so that's for me, that player spotlight. Also, shout out to Jaquan Johnson coming up and making a big stick on Taylor Heinicke. A little spotlight for that. Don't roll your eyes at me, Aaron.
You guys hang together, man.
I got to shout out to you a little bit. We look terrible in real football, so
yeah, that's
whatever.
True. Josh Allen's the player of the game for me, and it's super easy. But what
Did
I'm
he
going
do good?
He had a really nice day today. But I'm going to go a step further than just Josh Allen. For me, it was the connection of Allen and Beasley. I think that's the most important connection. I love what Diggs does in this offense, and Diggs is still the number one guy and makes a lot of it go. But for me, this offense moves the best when Cole Beasley's getting a high percentage of targets and he's getting those 4 to 9 yards, moving the chains, keeping everything in rhythm. That's when this offense is operating at its best. So to see that connection come back in this game gives me a lot of hope that they can get back to their 2020 form like we all wanted to see.
No, I think that's the right way to think about it, and it's exciting. We obviously enjoy our friends over at Uncle Jumbo's, and it's a fun way for us to bring a spotlight to the things that are there. So, Aaron, lead us off, and maybe a little bit up and down of the day, some positives, some negatives. What were your thoughts on the special teams play today?
Yeah, I think up and down, and this is my issue with special teams, right? Is a lack of consistency. I would get rid of all the big splash special teams plays if I could just have consistent across the board special teams plays. And I don't know that obviously the play of the game in a negative light is that Isaiah McKenzie not coming up and aggressively fielding that kickoff. I am still a believer, maybe it's because I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist at heart, that the way that ball hit the wind in Western New York and just fell. I'm not a physicist at all. I don't claim to be. But the way that ball just came down out of nowhere like a punt was super odd. It would be hard to kick it like that, in my opinion. But still, Isaiah's got to come up. That was a bit of a brain fart. Maybe he thought it was a punt too, the way it came down. But the rules aren't the same, and he's got to get that ball and cover it up. Even if it's diving out and risking yourself, you've got to put it all out there and aggressively attack that ball and make a play on it. And he hesitated. And this is my beef with Isaiah McKenzie. I know he was in our mentions, Greg, and people were loving his post and saying, Isaiah, you the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. Okay. Right. He has explosive ability, and we saw a nice explosive return that got brought back a little bit from a ticky-tack call, in my opinion. So we know that he's got that, but it's this consistency and decision-making that's just driving me absolutely nuts. I need a guy out there that's making good. Big science guy here. Yeah, I love science. I just don't know much about it.
I love science.
I just listen to the people about science. But yeah, it's a consistency thing for me. What I did like, we saw today, Hawk kick a nice ball that got a nice bounce, returned, downed it right at the one. That's exactly what we want to see out of him. Again, in a windy environment, it was able to have a nice punt there. So no issues there. We still did have some nice stuff in the return game. Coverage has been good. I don't think coverage on kicks has been a problem at all. It's just really, for me right now, it's the lack of consistency from Isaiah McKenzie is the biggest question mark on the special teams. And Tyler Bass is lights out. It's great to have Tyler Bass, and I'm so happy that he's there because that is the one real consistent on this special teams right now. Anything else to add?
Bass was 3 for 3 on field goals, 7 for 7 overall on kicks. Like you said, all you could possibly ask for. Matt Hawk did exactly what he was brought here for. Both kicks downed inside the 20. That's exactly what you want. That's the only thing we care about is, hey, get us some field position on the 2 times a game when we punt. Today was the exact kind of game that we wanted. One of them was phenomenal, a 60-yarder down to the 2-yard line. That is everything you could possibly ask for. The Isaiah McKenzie, I let it bother me more than it should have.
Talk about it.
That's what we're here for.
Tell them about your heart rate.
I literally got so mad in the moment that I had the presence of mind to say, "Oh my gosh, I can physically feel my blood pressure going. I should look at my watch here and see what my heart rate was." It was not a healthy number. It's not a number I'm proud of. It was definitely triple digits and a decent chunk above there. And like I get it. I want, like you said, I heard lots of people say that the wind knocked it down. I'm sure it was one of those kicks that they were consciously trying to make it returnable, and then the wind also helped it probably another 10 or 15 yards shorter. In the moment, Isaiah McKenzie, you can tell, had that brain fart of, oh, I should just let it bounce, and I don't want like a bad punt on a punt. When that's happening, you do want to stay away. You're coached to stay away, and you go there. On a kickoff, it is a live ball.
The longest onside kick I've ever seen.
You can't let the ball bounce because you don't know where it's gonna go. And then the other, so I get it that in his mind, in that snap second, and I certainly could not do this, and I don't envy him in that difficult snap second. But in that snap second, your choice isn't, oh, the safe decision is to let it bounce. It's that, hey, you running up and trying to make a difficult running catch is better than letting it bounce like an onside kick. You can't let it bounce. You absolutely can't let the ball touch the ground. It made me absolutely crazy. And then for them to then immediately convert that into a touchdown after we saw the fluky thing, I just had those moments in my mind playing back of the 17-year drought, and being in a spot where, oh my gosh, we're dominating the game, and we're going to let them back in. And it was 21-14, and then to be 21-14, and we then punted afterwards to give the ball back, and now all of a sudden it's 21-14, and they have the ball, and in my head it's, I can't believe he let that happen. Yeah. And that's not fair. That's not fair to put that all on him. That's not fair to do it that way. But I was furious in the moment that is the point we've been talking about. It's that the need for instant aggressive decision-making in the return game, we weren't sure if he had that. It happened again.
Still not sure.
That snap-second decision, he doesn't make the right call and the right decision, and we can't have that happen in a playoff game or the Bucs game or the Chiefs game. We can't have it. And I was just... I'm glad it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. This was a blowout win. I hope he now can learn from it in an inconsequential moment that didn't cost us the game. You cannot let that happen in a moment of a game that matters and is a one-score game.
I think this is what we're going to, unfortunately, at this point, see from him, is that inconsistency in the decision-making piece. Once he gets the ball, he can be electric and fast and explosive, but the decision-making piece is a huge part of returning punts and kicks. And I was right there with you. When I saw how the ball was kicked and I saw the way the return team was responding.
A quick aside, a lot of people had said that and said, oh, I thought he was being smart and letting it bounce so that, what, or people asking, hey, why wasn't it downed as soon as Washington touched the ball? I think everyone's so used to the fact that you only see onside kicks as a 10-yard play or the short area. A kickoff is a live ball.
Yep.
Anywhere that it could be recovered is eligible for both teams to recover it. You just don't see what happened happen very often. That's why you usually have the up man come up. You even see like the funny plays where the fullback catches it and kind of rumbles for a little bit with the ball. You want guys back there who can catch it. So there was a lot of things in question. You saw it adjusted to later in the game where you saw Micah Hyde as an up man on punts, maybe 15 yards in front of Isaiah McKenzie in case it got caught by the wind again. That's not a live ball like on a kickoff, but they even adjusted to it in the punt game because of where that's at. But a kickoff's a live ball. So Jeffrey, you're not alone. A lot of people on Twitter also didn't realize that rule. It's okay for you. It's not okay for a kick returner not to know that rule.
No, and as a person who did know that rule, my immediate thought when I saw the trajectory of the ball and how the kick return team was responding, my immediate thought was, oh, well, he's going to have to fair catch this and we're going to start the drive at like the 15. And then I saw, like the brain fart that you mentioned of him like being like, well, nah. And I just, I don't want to drill home on it too much, but that's just inexcusable. And great comment there from a handsome man. Rule 1, never let the ball hit the ground on a kickoff. It's just... And
this was the play he should have made.
That's what I was thinking. He'd come up immediately, wave for it, fair catching it at the 15, and boom, we're done. That's what killed me. Like, all you have to do, you don't have to get a return out of it. Just fair catch it. Boom, we'll take the ball there. The field position is not great, but
good on them to have a sneaky strategic kickoff that pinned you at the 15.
Boom.
God bless you.
Fair catch it, and you're done. I also wanted to pull up this one comment as a person who is very superstitious myself. I love that Pat went into it saying, I personally think it's my fault. I got up to finish cooking. When I came back, it was 21-14. I refused to leave my seat after. I appreciate you sticking to it.
I'll be furious if you leave your seat again.
Never leave your seat, ever.
Yeah, I do think the best point that you made, though, Greg, is it's 4th fun for us to sit up here and judge it. But yeah, I would crap all over myself.
Oh yeah,
I don't make
all those guys running at me
decisions.
terrified. No, of course not.
I take 3 days to make any serious decision in my life, so it's easy for me to say. But yeah, no, he's got to be better, so we don't have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this has been a fantastic game. There's a lot of good things. It's okay to be critical of the moments that we're down. But yes, this was a dominant game, a dominant win by the Buffalo Bills. In our final spot, Anthony, what were your thoughts on the coaching today? I thought it was a really nice day across the board, honestly.
1,000%. Really nice game across the board. I liked how they talked about it on the broadcast. Daryl Johnson was talking about the response that the Washington defense was going to do in the second half and how they were going to change rush lanes and coverage assignments and things like that. But Dable already kind of almost accounted for that change. And then we saw that 17-play, 93-yard drive. I loved the responsiveness, the adjustments that were made in game. I love the decision-making. From a play calling standpoint on both offense and defense. I thought it was a really good game plan from a coaching standpoint coming into it in terms of how they were going to attack Washington's defense, knowing their propensity for zone coverage on the back end, everything from the option routes and the underneath attacking aggressiveness that we saw from the wide receivers and the tight ends, all the way to the defense, just having faith in, all right, let's gum up the works up front. Let's make Heineke have to beat us. And he did not. He made some late reads. He was a bit slippery, as Aaron mentioned, but I like the responsibility from an execution and play calling standpoint. I just thought it was a really, as you led with, Greg, just a really well coached game from a game plan standpoint coming in, but then from a continual maintaining of that throughout the game and adjustments that were made. It was a really well coached game. And again, I wish the score line, not that, the final score was anything to sneeze at, but I wish it was more indicative of just how well the Bills coaching staff planned and executed in this game.
I absolutely agree. Hey, Aaron, what were your thoughts maybe on some of the guys who don't get as much credit?
Well, I think you touched on probably my biggest thought is that aggressive decision at the end of the half. Josh Allen, there's a tweet out there of one of the beat reporters talking about what Josh Allen said in that moment of how it instilled trust in, when you hear that from your coaches that you're going to be aggressive with 26 seconds left, that is a level of trust and confidence in the players. And that's real. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can't quantify in football, and those types of decisions and trust in your players is a real thing that matters. So that's huge. And I'm so frustrated that Leslie Frazier doesn't get the head coaching talk. It's cool because I want to keep him here as long as I possibly can have him on this defense. But I think it's a huge disservice. I've talked about it so many times that he doesn't get the credit he deserves. We had the late touchdown in garbage time, off that muff kick that we've been talking about here, that Washington scored. But other than that, you take those away, and this defense has gone, now? What are we in 12 quarters in with only like a few legitimate touchdowns given up this season? They've been clamps. It's been a mix of understanding the players.
They've given up 2 actual touchdown drives in 3 games.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's a mix of the continuity in players, but they're scheming up good stuff each and every week right now. And Leslie Frazier, in my opinion, all the young offensive names will get their burn. I think that's a myth. I think he should be skyrocketing up everybody's coaching desire hires list because he's done a great job. And every year he's been here for the Bills defensive coordinator, and this might be the best year that he's been putting together. Right now he's off probably the best start we've seen out of a Leslie Frazier, Sean McDermott defense.
First, I just want to say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom.
Look, it's a family affair today. We got cousins.
My grandma and my cousins usually watch too. So hi, Mom. It was a really encouraging day. I thought that Brian Dable was disciplined and smart.
His grandmother passed away, by the way. Deion Dawkins said this game was for Brian Dable and that his grandmother passed away this week. So
yeah, very sorry to hear that.
Condolences.
And, it's in a game like this, it's easy to want to get fancy and ahead of yourself. We didn't see a lot of trick plays. We didn't see a ton of schemed up deep shots. They took it when it mattered. But, Brian Dable knew, hey, this is a team that struggles. Their nickel isn't special. Their linebackers aren't special. Their front four is special. Their corners are good. eat in the middle of the field, eat up the zone, eat with short, easy adjustments that you can make as you go, and he did that. Leslie Frazier knew, hey, this is a team with some, special athletes that we just need to keep things in front of them. Being able to do that, Richard with a great call. Jaquan Johnson looked good at the end. That was a really nice
yes, he did.
Stick he did. And you get worried when Jordan Poyer comes in. I've been nervous about how good Jaquan Johnson really is. If one of those guys went down, that was reassuring today to see him come in and be able to do well. Ron says hi to my mom too. So I thought that Brian Daboll did the smart thing today. He didn't try to show off. He didn't try to get ahead of himself or be too fancy. He made the disciplined, tough calls, which is what Josh Allen needed, was somebody in his ear telling him, just take a profit, just take a profit, just take a profit. Use Cole Beasley like a running back. And then when a shot play makes itself available, we're not going to rein you in. We're not going to put you on a leash. Take a shot. And he did, and was able to do that as well. So I love that you gave Leslie Frazier a shout out, Aaron. I think, Anthony, you were spot on with Sean McDermott, but I thought that Brian Daboll had a disciplined, smart game today as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to add the point. We talked about the the score lines. I love the graphic they showed with 2 minutes left to go in the fourth as Trubisky was ending the game for us. So the Bills have outscored their opponents 78-21 in the last two games, which is
Say it again a little bit slower for me.
The Bills have outscored their opponents 78-21 in the last two games.
Man,
I'm going to record that snippet.
I'm going to send that to the Adam Beasley, the reporter for the Dolphins, who always harps on the point differential. How the Dolphins were better than the Bills last year, even though just because of their point differential. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, the Bills were number 1 in the NFL in point differential right now. So just to
I think that's a good segue here into some final thoughts for me, at least, is the Bills are back. Right. We had the panic of week 1. This team has gone right back into the team I think we all thought they would be. This is back-to-back blowouts against playoff caliber teams. They didn't just come in and put up 42 points on the Jets. You know what I mean? They put it up against what my opinion was a
fantasy
playoff team.
football. This was the number 1 drafted fantasy football defense.
Sure. Yeah, I had Washington to win their division this year, and I think they'll be in the hunt for that here as the year goes on. I think it's a pretty good football team. And backup quarterback aside, everybody going into this week was telling me how Heineke's magic, and he played in a big playoff game against the Tampa Bay Bucs and went on to win the Super Bowl. So you can put it on a curve if you want, but the way everyone was talking about it was that this is a team that can hang with Heineke, and I think this team's back. I think their defense is better than they were a year ago. I think we're getting the efficiency out of the rush game that we wanted on the offensive side of the ball, and now you're seeing Josh Allen in this passing game. They had a pretty good second half of last game, and now they put together a full game here. I think things are starting to click, just like we anticipated they would. This team's back, baby. The Bills are back on their run. I think they're going to easily win this division. I think all this talk of panic needs to go. Hey, Grandma.
The Tompsetts are all over this.
All over the place.
My family hates the Bills. I don't have anyone in my family that likes the Bills, and so I'm alone. They're all over the place.
Yeah, Jeffrey in trouble there. Yeah, it is kind of tough when the Bills are now on more of these primetime games and flipping over to Fox. And did 2 games in a row on Fox was kind of weird.
At least we didn't get Matt Millen.
Oh my gosh,
right?
Matt Millen's so terrible,
rough.
so bad.
It's rough.
Anthony, what were your final game thoughts?
Ooh, the adaptability piece. I'm big on. I don't like just looking at wins or losses. It's just like, well, it's a W, so that's great. Or, it's a loss, so that's what it is.
I do like dubs.
Yes, they're much better than losses, I will say that. But the context of them and the details of them to figure out, okay, like we won this game or we lost this game, but what did we do good or bad that allows us to project the sustainability for wins and losses going forward? And I thought today's performance was a really nice feather in the cap for that sustainability. Last week against Miami wasn't the best or most efficient offensive performance, but it was a terrific defensive performance. and the Bills won 35-0. And then this week, we see the offense start to click in a lot of ways. We see the defense show up and perform well again, but we see the offense succeed again in different ways, being able to attack with the run, being able to withstand front four and zone coverage on the back end. And Greg, like you mentioned, and I alluded to, being able to pinpoint a specific weakness of an opponent's defense and just attack that spot over and over in a variety of ways to make them have to be accountable for that spot. And then when they are over accounting for that spot, you hit them deep or you work the outside and do things. I just loved the variability and the adaptability that the Bills operated with on both offense and defense today, because there is no one way that anyone can play. I don't care who it is. You cannot play the exact same way every single week and win every single game. Some weeks you're going to have to go with different personnel. Some weeks you're going to have to blitz more than others. Some weeks you're going to have to run it a little bit more than you want to, whatever have you. This was a nice win in pairing with the Miami win that shows the Bills can win in a variety of ways. They can win with a variety of schemes and successes and play calls and coaching decisions. And it was just, that adaptability piece that they showed today, I think, goes a long way in trending and tracking the sustainability of this team going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's a good chance to step back as a Bills fan. You look at the other games that happened today. The Chiefs just lost again. They're now 1-2.
Picked it. Tally site. Follow me.
Boy. There we go. Follow Aaron. Follow his picks. The Patriots got thumped by the Saints today, in New England. Just
that whole in New England thing doesn't matter anymore. That's gone.
Heck, Pittsburgh came out and beat Buffalo. Terrible. We saw some of the fluky plays. We saw how big that punt block was. They've now gotten thumped 2 weeks in a row. They got destroyed by the Bengals today.
Week one's a liar. Every year.
Heck, Baltimore had to have a 66-yard NFL record-breaking field goal by Justin Tucker as time expired to beat the Lions. The Lions were beating the Baltimore Ravens 17-16 with seconds left. So all the Bills fans that get frustrated anytime we lose a game, anytime that we don't just completely dominate the other team, it's not always going to be that way. Like it's okay. The Bills have now put down two of the most impressive beatdowns in the NFL so far the last 2 weeks. I think the two highest scoring, outputs of the season so far.
DVOA is going to jump.
To have that kind of performance in back-to-back weeks is super, super encouraging. So today should have been a huge reassurance to Bills fans to help show that last week was not a fluke. Week one was not some harbinger of terrible things. Josh Allen having a real true 2020 second in the MVP voting game today. All those things together should really reassure people that things are going to be okay. Next week's a game against the Texans. I don't expect that game is going to tell us a lot about what's going on. That's going to be a fun game to watch and should be another strong one. But then we come into a really tough stretch with Kansas City and Tennessee. Tough back-to-back games again.
It's not as tough as I thought it was 2 months ago.
It's now looking pretty doable. That I'm excited about these games. I'm not afraid of any game that they're going to play this year. And today should give everyone that reassurance here. So, we really appreciate you guys. Today's the chat was awesome. You guys were fantastic jumping in here. Make sure you're checking out everybody on the Cover One channel here. We're going to have the roundup for you on Monday night. We're going to have the Hoof on Tuesday. We're going to have both the Disguise coverage and the Cover One Buffalo preview on Wednesday. We're going to have the Cover One Fantasy Show leading into Thursday Night Football on Thursdays. We're going to be here for you all week long, and then after every single game, we are going to be here, the three of us, Anthony Prohaska, Aaron Quinn, and myself, on the Cover One post-game show. I'm really thankful the Bills won, so Anthony was allowed back on the show.
Yeah,
dude, you have no. I told when the kick happened and McKenzie didn't get it, and then Washington scored. I literally looked at my wife and I was like, I'm never going to be able to do the post game again. I felt it, man. I'm so glad I was able to come back.
And rules are rules, man. So
we can't mess with
everybody's got to play their part. Whatever I have to do to get the Bills to win. So that I had to pack up and go back to Italy. It is what it is.
It is what it is, No, we appreciate you guys. The chat was awesome today. The Cover One Slack channel was fantastic. Make sure you're checking out our Cover One Premium membership. Check out our friends over at Uncle Jumbo's, getting ready to come out with their new Niagara Frontier Bourbon Whiskey. It's going to be awesome. The West Herr Auto Group is there for all your automotive needs. Our friends over at Underdog Fantasy helping us out. I think think I had a pretty good week in Underdog Fantasy this week. I'm excited to go check it out after we wrap up here. But on behalf of Anthony Prohaska and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.